are coming to you live from Hofstra University in Hempstead, New York, site of the first presidential debate. It is just hours away. After months of hitting each other from afar, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump will share the stage for the very first time. Each will make the case for why they should be the next president of the United States.
And at least 100 million viewers are expected to tune in tonight, nearly a third of the total population of the United States of America. This would actually make this potentially the most watched presidential debate in American history. And according to recent polling, Americans are actually split right now, right down the middle, over exactly who to support. The latest national survey from Quinnipiac University shows Clinton and Trump both in a virtual tie in a four-way race, with Clinton ahead by less than the margin of error.
With us now is CBSN political contributor Nomiki and CBSN political contributor and former John McCain campaign manager Rick Davis. Good to have you guys.
Thanks for being here.
All right, so Rick, you've had your share of debates with McCain's run, obviously, in 2008. Walk us through what happens leading up to the moment that the candidates take the stage.
Well, the day of the debate is really a critical day because you're really done with all the heavy prep. You're doing a little fine-tuning. You come over the stage, you do a walkthrough. You know, the candidate gets to sort of feel his way around the energy that is present with all the media assembled. And then you got this like deadly downtime, right? What do you do with the candidate, you know, to pump him up? And typically one of the most ceremonial things, which is also very strategic, is the dinner before the debate, right? You want him to eat something, or her. You want it to be something that's not going to upset their stomach. No tacos and hot sauce. And you want him to be around people. You want your candidate to be around people who they're comfortable with. You know, who maybe they could break the edge a little bit. We use Lindsey Graham. I remember he's sort of the class clown in the United States Senate. And
he journaled probably about what he ate and kept it in his diary.
Well, yeah, exactly. And so one day, it was I think the third debate. It was really the last chance John had to try and get back into the presidential campaign. And Lindsey shows up, since it was right near Halloween. He'd found one of these rubber masks of John McCain's face that were so popular at the election year for Halloween, and comes walking in pretending to be John McCain getting ready for his debate. And it was perfect, absolutely ideal.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I want to ask you, Nomiki, about Hillary Clinton. You were a big Bernie Sanders supporter. She's really struggling with millennials right now. What does she need to do in this debate? Because there will be a lot of millennials watching tonight.
I think that she needs to say things and mean them. And I say that for a reason. She's made a lot of promises in the campaign and the primary, but I think she needs to take it a step up and say, not only do I care about the environment, I pledge that I will no longer accept natural gas money. You know, it has to the rhetoric has to match her actions. And that's what's going to connect with these voters who, over a third of them, don't have any brand association to the Democratic Party, definitely don't have it with Hillary Clinton. And they ran an entire campaign. They were so invested in these campaigns. They waited in hour-long lines, 2-hour-long lines to show up in 30,000 people crowds, watched Bernie Sanders speak about policy for 2 hours. So they're so invested in the issues that it goes beyond having Katy Perry on stage. It goes beyond even having Bernie Sanders on stage. It's about Hillary Clinton not just making promises, but acting on those promises and connecting with the people, feeling what they're feeling.
How does she win over these women? You know, she does really well with a portion of older women, but the younger millennial women in particular are not saying, I'm not voting for you because you're a woman. It's not good enough.
Right. I think it's the same way that Bernie Sanders won them. It's the economics. It all ends up with the economics. That's what it comes down to. You know, I know that the pundits are going to come out and look at the footage and say she was too tough on this, she was too firm here, or she leaned in too much, or she smiled too little, or whatever. That's all theatrics. That's not what's going to win the young women that are going to win her the election. She needs to get them to the polls. What's going to get them to the polls? Talking about paid family leave. I mean, that is a big issue, and she's taken that step 2, 5, 3, 5, whatever, 30 steps above Donald Trump, who has this like fake paid family leave plan. She needs to talk about how Wall Street, they're the ones who have been campaigning against equal pay. She needs to say, listen, I know that we went to Wall Street. I am no longer willing to accept money from Wall Street. Or I'm no longer willing to have a Democratic Party that plays so well with Wall Street when they're the ones campaigning against equal pay. That's what Bernie Sanders did, was he connected the dots on all of those issues, and it's like she speaks to each group of people and it's like they don't conflict. You know, she can't go and dine with Wall Street and then go try to win millennial voters.
Rick, let me ask you a question about in modern day elections. 47%.
The ones I ran.
Yeah, right. Back in the olden days.
Yeah.
47%. I mean, 47% of Republicans, 47% of Democrats are going to go with the candidate. These candidates are fighting for
Sound like Mitt Romney all of a sudden.
47%.
47%, right? But the question is, when it comes to these debates, you're looking really to grab those people that are undecided.
Yeah.
For those people who are undecided about Donald Trump, if he gets on this debate stage and he doesn't offer specifics for his plan to defeat ISIS, he doesn't offer specifics about his paid leave plan, if he doesn't offer specifics about his tax plan, is that going to win anybody over?
You know, it's a strange election year in that it looks a lot like a typical election year, as you say. You know, people falling along their fault lines, you know, demographically and politically. But what's different about this election cycle is undecided voters are actually not really undecided voters. Undecided voters have actually decided not to like either candidate. I mean, so it's not like they're still making a judgment call, right? They've said, I'm not landing on the Democrat or the Republican because I don't like either one. And so it's not that they are persuadable. It's hard to get these people to move. And so I think what's the missing elixir, and I think you hit upon it, is the positive message, right? I mean, what's going to happen tonight is these candidates, the conventional wisdom is they're going to go in, they're going to butt heads, right? And they're going to try and raise their negatives. They already have historically high negatives. That's not their problem. What their problem is connecting with voters on a positive message of change. And Trump is no better at communicating to millennials because he's a denier on the environment. He just came up with this plan for paid women leave, maternity leave, and he can't even talk the details about it. So they're smart enough as voters to say, well, there's something wrong with that. But what I'm amazed by is Hillary's lack of engagement on issues like climate and social issues that are driving a lot of millennials. And so if she wants to fire them up, go positive.
But isn't that because she's been mostly dealing with trying to put out fires related to her campaign? The pneumonia thing, the email scandal. It feels as if, especially in the media, and you know, we're members of the media, that a lot of the discussion when it comes to her has been around the email scandal, has been around her health issues, and she hasn't been able to get that message out that she has a plan for the environment, that she's not a climate change denier. Donald Trump is.
Yeah, I think the earned media has been tough because I think she's got issues that she hasn't addressed to move beyond them, right? So now she's paying that price. When she had a convention for 5 days where it was just her pipe, right, communications-wise, and she could flood the country with her message, her numbers went way up. And that was, by the way, almost all positive. There was a legitimate amount of Trump bashing, but that's not what drove her numbers into the positive direction. It was the fact that she had a message that was a positive message about change that she could bring to Washington that was delivered in mass for 4 straight nights. And that's the kind of discipline that campaign needs to get on, is saying, look, there is something different about us and we have a plan for the country. And even though it's somewhat, you know, sort of, I want to make America great again, people are left with the message out of that he has a plan. No one's ever heard it. They can't get details, but he's insisting that he's going to implement that plan.
Show me the plan.
Yeah.
That's what she needs to say, is anytime he makes a criticism, she'll say, great, where's your ideas? I'd like to see your details. I'd like to see what kind of leader you are.
You know, debate night it typically is not the night where you roll out some new policy. That's not what tonight's about. I want to ask you, though, the poll number's so close nationally between the two of them. How do either of them differentiate themselves out of the gate?
Ooh.
Well, I think one of the ways is for Hillary Clinton is to actually not engage Donald Trump, right? I mean, I think he's just aching for a fight, right? He's a boxer in the ring, and if you have someone that, you know, can rope-a-dope a little bit and stay out of the fray, it's going to frustrate him, right? Because he's happiest when he can throw a, as he describes it, counterpunch, which usually is the first punch, but, you know, he likes to counterpunch. If she never gives him an opportunity to counterpunch, he will get very frustrated. That said, I think if he could come out with some of these specifics and be a little bit more, I wouldn't say wonkish, because he'll never get to that, you know, level, but to be a little more forceful in defending his policies and articulate them, I think that can shock her, right? I think she can be, you know, put off by that.
You know, I think with Donald Trump, we're so used to seeing two versions of Donald Trump. Teleprompter Donald Trump, that's serious, and non-teleprompter. There's no teleprompter tonight.
Right.
So I'm curious to see if he can actually get specific without the teleprompter. And my guess is, for an hour and a half, he won't be able to bite his tongue long enough. Now, can she hold back and not engage? That's the other question. I think that she becomes very defensive. That's her natural character instinct. Throughout, you know, from the early 90s, she and her campaign have they spend more time defending themselves rather than talking about what they've achieved. Now, if I were her, I'd come out of the gate straight up and say, the last 8 years, we changed the economy, we Democrats. You know, when we were in 8 years ago, nobody wanted to speak with us around the world. I was Secretary of State, I went out there and I met with every world leader, and we're in a different place today than we were 8 years ago, and I'm gonna continue that. This man to the left of me, my opponent, he does nothing right now to try to make America great again. If anything, he's destructing America, and it's going to be a completely different America under his presidency versus mine.
Secretary Clinton, if you're watching.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she's going to listen to my advice.
Nomiki, Knost, thank you so much. Rick Davis, thank you as always. We appreciate it.